Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our signing day 2025 coverage. Buckeyes getting ready to put the finishing touches on a really good 2025 recruiting class. Be another one of the best recruiting classes in the country. We're doing our signing day recruiting capsules here on every player the Buckeyes sign here on Wednesday. I'm Mark Givler. Got Kevin Noon here with me. We are on the secondary right now for this episode. One of the late additions to the Ohio State recruiting class, Jordyn Woods, a 6'4", yes, 6'4" corner out of Cartersville, Georgia. That's a suburb. It's a deep suburb of Atlanta. It's pretty far up there, but it's Atlanta sprawls so much, we'll call it a suburb. Same high school as Trevor Lawrence. For those who are familiar, trying to kind of paint a picture of the type of area he's from. But this was a late flip from Cincinnati to Ohio State for the Buckeyes. And again, a 6'4" corner, Kevin. I guess the first question is, can he really play corner at 6'4"?
That's always up for debate. We've seen that, and then suddenly the guy disappears from that position and is in another room. I'm here for it. Everybody wants 6-foot corners, 6'1" corners. Why not a 6'4" corner? But I think I need to see more. But with him playing in Cartersville, Georgia, again, he's not playing in Burlington, Vermont, or in Laramie, Wyoming, or something like that. There's he's at least going against dudes. So I think that there's something to be said about that. And Ohio State had a long time to do its due diligence here. I mean, he was a former Cincinnati commitment. I mean, Ohio State obviously very familiar with recruiting North Georgia at a high level. And, they kept watching, and then they finally moved in. So obviously there is something about Jordyn Woods that Ohio State really likes. I think that you can see the athleticism there. Is he a corner? I don't know, but I would rather bring him in, let him have a year at corner, and then figure it out than just not have him in my program.
Yeah, this is a guy they really liked. Tim Walton took a very keen interest in early in the fall, and this was a guy who, regardless of anything else happening out there with like Naheem Offord or any of the other corners, this was a guy they were going to bring in no matter what. This didn't have any impact on any other moving pieces. This was a guy they were going to bring in either way. They needed another corner in the class after Blake Woodby decommitted several months ago, and so this was a guy they had kind of zeroed in on. As for, can he play corner? I guess, do you consider the nickel a corner in this defense? Because there's debate about that. It's generally been referred to as like the third safety, yet they've more recently transitioned it to more of like a third corner in terms of the type of player they use there, with Jordan Hancock doing a really nice job there the last couple of years. I think he can play that role for sure. I mean, we'll see about playing outside at 6'4". That is so much to ask. Yes, for every Sauce Gardner who can do it, there's a Tyvis Powell who moves to safety. So we will see kind of how that works out. But I do think he could play in the slot in this defense and give them some interesting, an interesting component there with his height and length in that role. But very intriguing athlete, good basketball player, very athletic kid at 6'4". So he's not just tall; he's very athletic. He's a tough physical kid. As we'll throw in the film here and show you that. The one thing I hear 6'4" corner basketball player, and I immediately think, oh, does he even want to tackle? And yes, he does want to tackle. He's very physical in run support, very good in coming up and making plays. There's a big hit there on a kind of a flat route. And yes, so he has all the physical tools you would look for in a defensive back, and the height and the basketball background are there. But he's also a football player. So love the way he attacks. Love how aggressive he is. How much he likes to stick his nose in there in the run game and in those flat routes. So a very intriguing athlete. I think probably will need a little bit of seasoning, but I think one of the higher upside guys here.
Yeah, and not everybody that you bring in right off of the bat is going to be ready to jump into the fray and be the guy. I mean, it takes guys a while to figure it out, to kind of learn up and down and left and right and everything else. And we can go through a lot of guys that maybe didn't have the star ranking or whatever, but I think he's somebody that with some time you're going to figure out what he can do to be successful. And maybe it's not at corner, maybe it's not at nickel, but I don't know if I look at him and see somebody's like, oh, that's a linebacker at this point. I don't know about that, but I think that he, especially when you're not in a huge scholarship crunch, you sit there and you figure it out. You see what it is that he can do well. I mean, he's out there doing. I mean, like Ohio State brought in Kai Stokes a couple years ago, and he had just moved to safety, and that didn't necessarily work out well for him. He's now at Cincinnati, I believe, after he transferred out. I think you bring in somebody like this, and you see what sticks. And I think that with somebody like this, a lot's going to stick.
Yeah, and obviously, they needed to bring in a bunch of defensive backs. They're about to lose a bunch of these guys to the NFL either this year or next. It's going to be a total retooling of the secondary over the next year and a half at Ohio State, with all the guys that are going to be graduating to the NFL out of the program. So this needed to be a big class of defensive backs. And yes, you're going to have your Fahim Delanes and your Devin Sanchez's, who are like super highly rated guys, and everyone in the country was recruiting them. But if you're going to sign a bunch of defensive backs, you also need to bring in some high upside developmental guys, because if you bring in 6 guys who are just like, I was recruited by every program in the country and I have to play right now, you're going to lose half of those guys in the portal anyway, because you can't find spots for all of them right away. So you need to bring in some developmental guys with high upside who play hard, who seem to generally want to be at Ohio State. This kid visited several times this fall. Even before he had an offer, he visited. He really made an effort to kind of show Ohio State, like, yeah, I'm really considering flipping if you guys will offer me. And it wasn't just talk. So I think this kid's got a lot of potential, and I think he's very happy to end up at Ohio State. And I think those are good combinations there. It's not a kid who just was playing the game and, well, Ohio State's a great program, so I need to be there, and reluctantly committed to Ohio State. This was a kid who sought out these visit opportunities and really, really pushed the envelope in terms of, kind of forcing the coach's hands to offer him with his play and with his just his enthusiasm for coming to the campus. So I'm a fan of this one. Like I said, I liked the idea at the time of his commitment. I like the idea of this. Like, probably a redshirt kid first year, but 6'4", can run, can hit. There's got to be a place in your defense for something like that. So I think they'll figure that out. But Kevin, I mean, this is like, we're talking major turnover in the Ohio State secondary over the next 18 months.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that so many of these guys that have been fixtures there for years and years, it feels like, you're like, oh, they just got here. Well, no, they really haven't. And I mean, when you sit there and have guys like Jermaine Matthews and Malik Hartford, who have been in the program a couple of years, that should just be even more evidence of just how quickly the sands of time go through the hourglass. And that's, kind of where Ohio State stands. So that's why Ohio State had to go out and really load up on its secondary recruiting this year. And, it probably could have even taken more bodies in there. Just didn't necessarily, work out that way. A couple guys just didn't give Ohio State a chance, or did, but, had a better opportunity elsewhere. Ohio State's had to dodge some bullets out there in terms of its defensive recruiting, and hasn't been able to get past all of them. But there is the real need for him, and I think that it'll be interesting to see how his career kind of blossoms, because it's kind of a blank canvas. You're not exactly sure what the painting is going to look like. You just know it probably is going to end up looking pretty good.
And this will be a Tim Walton special. I mean, this will be a Tim Walton evaluation, a Tim Walton pounding the table, everything else. So Tim Walton will get a lot of credit if this one turns out well for the Buckeyes. This was definitely a Tim Walton recruitment. So we'll see. But Jordyn Woods is in the fold after flipping a few weeks ago from Cincinnati. He has now signed with Ohio State in the 2025 recruiting class. Stay locked in here at youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle throughout the day for more of these little breakdowns as the signatures roll in and as things develop. We'll also be doing a Wednesday evening live show where we'll kind of recap the day. You guys can ask questions, and that'll replace our Monday show that didn't happen this week just because of everything going on with signing day. So make sure to tune in for that. Also, BuckeyeHuddle.com, $4.99 for your first month. Great month to do it. Recruiting coverage, transfer portal, winter practice, college football playoff prep, first few rounds of the playoffs, all included in your first month for just $4.99. So head on over there and check us out as well. But thank you again for watching and listening, and we'll talk to you again very soon.